In the spring of 2020, Dan and I had a trip planned to the West Coast. We were going to fly to Seattle and drive down the Pacific Highway 1 to San Francisco because we both desperately want to get to Alcatraz before it erodes away into the ocean. As we were planning out our trip, I asked if we could reroute a little bit so that we could see the giant looming trees that Northern California along the coast is known for. Dan, of course, conceded, and we planned a good day just wandering around those mammoth trees whose branches seemed to be praising the heavens all day long. Obviously, the whole world shut down in 2020 and we canceled our trip. But the idea of being among those great, pronounced, 100-year-old trees still looms on my list of destinations. Right, those trees have weathered famine and storm, parasites, and people. And yet they stand there so grand, so pronounced, so just majestic. There are, of course, I've been told and seen pictures, lots of little trees in the area. Trees maybe no bigger than me or seedlings just popping out of the ground. Those trees we often overlook because, well, simply said, there's nothing special about them. Why notice the everyday ordinary trees when you have these looming giants in front of you? I'm guilty of that as well. But in today's devotion, it reminds us that those grand trees started out just like all the others. Now, you could go a variety of ways with this idea that the big looming trees started just as small as the little seedlings. You can take that to think about Jesus, how Jesus was born as we are and experienced many, if not all, the same circumstances we did. We talked about it in confirmation. Jesus probably had an upset stomach. Jesus probably had a bloody knee. Maybe Jesus didn't struggle on Instagram, obviously, but Jesus probably knew what it was to throw up, to have his heart broken, to have a conflict between someone that needed resolved. The glorious nature of Jesus is that Jesus is just like you and me, born of a woman, crying, hungering, needing other people to take care of him in the beginning. God and yet flesh. We also can look at this looming tree idea that we all start out small to think about our lives. The grand destiny God has purposely created for us that I truly believe we get to one way or the other. The destinies maybe seem different. I don't think all of us are created to be athletes or entrepreneurs, but sometimes kindness or a cold glass of water or a meal or a hug when people are struggling. I think that can become part of our great destiny. Yes, we might start out small, like the mustard seed growing into a great bush, or a seedling becoming a huge, ginormous tree in California. But God intentionally chose the weak. God intentionally sent Jesus in human form, not for mighty, not for great things, but to do the work, to live the life, to bring peace and balm and love and grace in a world that is full of not always great things. So next time, however it shows up in your life, between the striking contrast between what is and could be with a 100-year-old tree or a seedling or an incarnate God who puts on flesh or our own lives here in Williamsburg, be reminded that our God is the God of the big and the strong and the weak and the vulnerable and the human. And that God almost always falls on the side of those of us who feel insignificant, that maybe our destinies are lacking or are smaller than some of the other ones we see around us. And God uses all of us. Thanks be to God for that.